There'll be six episodes of it. The first one, yeah, we just wrapped up, and we're launching the Kickstarter for, so we're going to try and sell physical copies for the next month, starting on November 3rd. Yeah.
Refresh my memory. What's it called?
More Than Men is what
More
it's
Than
called.
Men.
Yeah, it's
And
about if only the rich had superpowers.
that's an interesting story. And the art's fantastic too. And
Yeah.
how many people do you have working on it?
So it's me. I do the writing and I draw all the dialogue balloons. And there's an artist who draws all the pictures and a colorist.
And where are they from? The artist and the
Um,
colorist.
yeah, the artist is in the Philippines actually, and the colorist
Wow.
is Eastern Canada.
So that's what's fascinating about it, is that you hooked up with them on Reddit
Yeah,
and
honestly,
they're all
it's
over the
so
place.
cool. It's so cool to
Yeah.
me how we're spread all over the world, right? And we're just coming together and making this one project together. It's really, really an amazing experience.
Have you thought about, while you're waiting for Kickstarter to work itself out, starting another project? I mean, you're basically the project manager on this thing, aren't you? Or
Yeah,
what
yeah,
if
I've
it's
been
somebody else's brainchild? I mean, it's your work, it's your writing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of the organization of it, setting up the Kickstarter, doing a little bit of marketing, spreading it around and stuff. But yeah, totally. I've been doing a side project, which is I'm writing up a guide on how to make comics, just the whole process of it.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. How's that working out?
Yeah, it's come a long way since the last time we talked. I put it up on my website now, and it's gotten more hits than the comic. So
Oh, it's
yeah,
interesting. Any
it's been
comments on it? Like anybody saying anything about it?
Yeah,
Uh,
totally. People are really receptive to it, and I've got a lot of feedback back and forth between people, and they some people asking questions and giving their own inputs, and it's become more of a community thing than I expected it to be. Whereas I just started writing it up as just something I wanted for myself, just some
yeah,
notes on how to lay out a comic properly and whatever. But
yeah. Like, if I remember correctly, it was a way to self-educate yourself on how to do a comic the right way,
yeah, yeah,
right?
it started off just as pretty much a resource list for me because this is my first comic and I wanted to collect all the steps that I needed to for each page of the art that I wanted. I wanted to have, okay, well, I need to do this and then this and this and this, but then it just kind of exploded out into the whole process of it.
Yeah, it's fascinating because your work is in computer graphic. No, you're an
Yeah, I'm
engineer.
computer science. Yeah, computer engineering.
Yeah. And that's what's I mean, basically that's what a computer engineer does, right? It stacks information up number wise. And
Yeah, totally.
I mean, what do you do during your day job? I mean, how does your day job work itself out?
So we're designing and implementing a product.
Yeah.
So we're a security company. So we'll say, hey, we need this feature done, and it's up to us to design exactly how it's done, how it works with the system, and actually implement it ourselves.
That's basically what you did with this comic book.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there's this thing that needs to get done, and decide the best way to do it, and break it down into the steps. Yeah, yeah. Now that you mention it, it's totally
Wow, it's
true.
fascinating. I mean, do you think, I mean, is this like you love comics, right?
Yeah, totally.
I
Yeah,
think I remember
definitely.
that being part of the conversation last time. You love comics. I mean, can you see this working for other things, or this is how you want to use your brain? Like your brain and comics, best combination, or is this one of the ways that you want to use your brain? Are there other things that you'd like to do also?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to do some more comics just because it's been a really fun and awesome process for me. But
Uh,
I'd definitely like to spread out and do some other things. I was talking about doing a travel blog because I want to do some trips around the world, and I think that something like that would be fun. I like creating things, and I've done a whole bunch of different mediums, um, different ways of creating things. But yeah, I'd like to explore more too.
um, how would you finance a trip around the world? Have you thought about finance in terms of something like this, or
Yeah.
is that kind of outside the
Yeah.
way it
So
does it work?
I've been saving up. I've actually trying to do minimal expenses for the past little while, and probably for a couple more years, um, and funding projects like this comic through Kickstarter, so it's not all coming out of pocket. Um,
Exactly. I mean, a trip around the world where it doesn't come out of pocket. That's intriguing to me, right?
Yeah,
It's so expensive. Just even fly to Europe is like $1,000, and then
yeah,
what you spend when you're in country to do
yeah,
that where it doesn't cost you like thousands of dollars or whatever
yeah. It's
would be so
crazy.
fantastic. Have somebody else pay for that and you just enjoy it and write back and say, hey, it was fun. This is what I did, and take pictures and do some kind of vlog or blog or
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, because I've been looking at
vicarious.
some travel blogs, and we're getting a little off topic, but and
Well,
it's
I mean,
just
I look at
people.
it like stacking
Yeah,
your information,
yeah,
right? In terms of like, what do you want to do?
yeah, and I've been looking at some travel blogs, and people they're sponsored by these companies, and they just go around traveling and doing what they love, and they make videos, and it looks amazing. Honestly, it's so amazing. Like my girlfriend has these friends who bike down from Canada down into through South America, and it's just crazy. It looks so cool.
Well, getting back on subject, with
Yeah.
this being your project, and I know I already asked this question, how long is the comic again?
It's 32 pages.
32 pages. And
Yeah.
that's pretty long in comparison to a normal comic book.
Yeah, yeah. So, if you're looking at a Marvel or DC, just regular superhero story, those average like 22 to 24 pages. So, I wanted this one to be a little bit longer, have enough time to really introduce the story, and then with the later issues, just continue expanding on that.
How much are you asking for the Kickstarter?
So the comic will be $15, but that's Canadian, and that's also including shipping.
So
So,
it's basically free then.
yeah. Yeah.
Kickstarter, let's see. I'm gonna go to the website just so I can take a look at what you guys have got. Is it up and started already?
No, it starts on November 3rd.
November
Um,
3rd.
yeah, but I can send you a link. I'll pull that up. I've got a
Sure,
template
shoot it to my
so
email.
far. I will do that. But yeah, I've even just doing a Kickstarter, from after completing the comic, I'm still learning so much stuff, and I'm gathering more and more notes, which I plan to put into the guide, um, and hopefully that'll be helpful for other people. Because I'm in a here, I'll post it into the group chat on the.
That's what I like the most about your project is that you're always looking out for other people too. Now you're very altruistic in terms of what you're collecting. You want to share it with other people.
Yeah, yeah, I really enjoy just the community aspect of it, and helping each other out and learning together to make this best product possible. And really, it's not only has it been a fulfilling experience, but it's also been helpful to me, because if I share with other people are willing to share with me, and we're all learning together, and it just benefits everyone. So,
How long did it take start to finish to get to this point?
well, I started writing it like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
but when I was really serious into it, it took um, maybe 6 months. 6 months, and that's long, I think, for a single issue.
So
So,
5 years ago, what is that? Is that the
oh,
idea?
like,
The
yeah,
germination of
that
the
was
idea?
the big idea. I started thinking, well, I really like comics, and I I'm getting kind of tired of the regular superhero stories. They're kind of like recycling ideas. So I want to twist it. I want to make something new, and I want to have some kind of impact on with my story, and as opposed to, hey, here's this cool thing that happens, and there's no real consequences. It's just this is the story. And so I wanted to have something with real impact, and that's when I got the idea of, well, what if only the rich had superpowers? What would that mean? And I started expanding on that idea. And once I finally graduated university, I said, okay, let's make this happen now. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
And you're not exhausted by the idea. You don't want to start something new. You want to finish out the next 5 issues.
Yeah, when I first started, and I think this is probably why it took so long, I would just have an idea and then another idea, and I would kind of expand, getting more and more ideas, more and more project ideas too, and lots of things I wanted to do. And that led to me not actually completing anything. So I've really been trying to focus on picking like one or two, maybe even three projects, and just working at them and finishing them. And I found
Yeah.
that really, really beneficial to um, me and to my products as well.
I would recommend that to anybody. Exactly. I mean, there are all these ideas, but the implementation of those ideas is really important. It's from A to Z,
Yeah.
getting it down on paper, finishing the project, and then moving on.
Yeah, and I watched this really interesting video recently, which was something I struggled with, which was about how you take your project to 80% of your best ability. Because I was struggling trying to finish things because I was always had the mindset of it has to be perfect, it has to be totally done before I can move on, and that's kind of restricting yourself, right? Because there you can't be perfect. You're not a perfect person. Like nobody
Yeah,
is. And so I
it's gonna
would
drive you
take it.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would take it
it's
to
gonna, and it's gonna
80%.
drive you insane to
Yeah.
make that 100%
Yeah.
because you never know what 100% is, do you?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. What even is that? Right. But if you take it to 80% of your ability, that is a good, solid project, a product that you can still learn from and still move on and create more things. And creating two projects at 80% is way better than creating one project that probably won't even get to 100, right? And you're going to be in those final 20%, you're going to be like stressing yourself out and straining and really stretching yourself, not
Burn
really
yourself out.
learning much. Yeah, burning
Yeah,
yourself out for sure. And that's
yeah, I've heard
something
this
that,
before. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that
Um,
yeah, burning yourself out, that's something I've had to deal with a lot, with all the projects I've picked up, and I think really building a schedule and setting time limits and deadlines, and very specifically laying stuff out, at least for me, that it helped me um, keep in control of my life as I bring all these projects in.
do you have the scripts compiled for the next 5 books?
I have the script for the second issue pretty much done. Um, the 3, 4, 5, and 6 are outlined. So I don't have a hard script for those because I wanted to give myself a little bit of wiggle room in case something changes over time. But yeah, number 2 is pretty much there. So once the Kickstarter finishes, I'll get started on that one right away.
What about your team? How do they feel about the progress that you guys have made?
I think they've been pretty visible about how they're enjoying it as well, and I think it's a combination of uh, just strong communication between the team and the project just being something fun and interesting that we get to talk about. Like offline, me and the colorist Val will constantly be talking about, oh, what about this? What if we change this? And oh, how, and we'll get into such subtle details of the coloring and what the implications of that are, and it's just fun, and I think
Yeah,
that's important in a project, the fun
I
and
got involved in
passion.
one of your conversations on Facebook. I just accidentally upon it,
Yeah,
You guys had, I think, 5 or 6 pictures up. I think
right,
you
yeah,
were
that
talking
was when.
about you were looking for, I think, you were looking for a little button.
Yeah,
What
we're
was it
looking for.
exactly?
Yeah, that's the logo of the team, the superhero team in the comic, and
Yeah,
that's kind of like the logo. It goes all in the Kickstarter. We'll be selling those as little buttons, but it's all over the place, really. And I wanted to get the community involved and not just have it be me generating everything. And I thought it'd be really fun to have people vote on what they think is the favorite. And I got a lot of feedback, not just on Facebook, but on other places where I posted it as well. And honestly, it was cool to hear people's thoughts, and not only that, but it
you know
also
what
just
was
brings
cool for
attention,
me?
right?
That's where I
Yeah.
felt emotionally invested in your project. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd already talked to you. I knew you personally. We had an hour conversation about what you were developing, but when I put my 2 cents into your project, I felt an emotional investment.
Yeah, totally.
And I thought that was
And
cool. When I
yeah, that's
saw other tweets from you guys and I saw your book getting developed, I'm like, hell yeah, let me tweet this out. Let me blah, 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 whatever it was. I'm like, I'm cheering for you guys. Now, I was always cheering for you, but
yeah,
when I
yeah,
saw that on Facebook and I felt like I contributed a little bit or I was helping you along or, what I do, I just made a comment
yeah.
or whatever, but I felt emotionally invested for a minute or still
And
do actually. I'm
yeah,
cheering
and
for you all.
even then, even if it's just a comment, like that is participation. That does help, and it's helpful to me in that it spreads the word, but also that it it makes a community around a book and an
That's
idea.
so smart.
And it's so cool and something I want to carry around to all the projects I do, making a community around it. And I think
Absolutely.
that's
And it's unique. It's not unique because I'm sure everybody wants it, but you did it. And a lot of people are probably asking how. So how did you do it? I mean, did you already have a community going into the project, or did this kind of just happen organically around what you had been developing? I mean, you said you had your book that you had been writing, you know, the guts to a comic book writing.
yeah.
You know, I mean, did that happen organically? Did you push that on Twitter? Because I don't notice that you being on Twitter very often. I don't see you on Twitter, and I'm not really much on the Facebook situation. I have been getting on there lately, but I don't see you much on Facebook either, but or email for that matter. And I think I'm on your mailing list. So how did
Yeah.
you do this? How did you get this community kind of started?
Yeah, so I'm in regards to like Twitter and Facebook and the email list, I've been trying to ease people into it. I don't want to just blast out messages all the time and have
I think
people
that's
be
smart. Yeah.
overwhelmed. I want to write like, when I do message out, I'll email maybe every 2 weeks, if that, and it's got like, important updates. And usually, I try to have some kind of community engagement. And I think a lot of people, when they're first starting, they'll just go on Twitter and they'll follow whatever hundreds of people, and
Yeah.
maybe they'll get follows back, maybe they'll get 500 follows back. But if you see those people
And a
tweet
lot of
out
those people
something,
are ridiculous. I mean, they're not even gonna, you know, they don't care about you. They're just following you as a
yeah,
response, like a muscle
yeah,
twitch.
yeah, and if you see those people tweet out, they get like one, two replies, that's it, maybe. And
Yeah.
I think I would rather build a strong community of people that actually care about the story, actually care about what I'm doing. And that said, I'd like to reach out more and spread out more, but I think from what I've done so far, even though it's only a little, I've received more feedback than I would have if I just blasted out a bunch of messages without any personal attachment to anyone, right?
So I mean, but the question is, are you doing anything particular to find those
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. So I try to find um first off, like my first strategy is, okay, if I'm gonna ask something of someone, if I'm gonna ask someone to bid into my project to give me money, I wanna give them something first, right? And so that was one of the driving factors of this guide that I made. So I posted that out onto message forums for comic book creators. I said, "Hey, I made this guide. Check it out," and that got just a ton of feedback and people checking it out. And then people immediately became interested because one, it's something they can participate in, and two, it's something that benefits them for free, right? So once that's there, once you've established that relationship, once you've given someone something, they're way, way more receptive to wanting to give back to you. So I think that's one of the major ways that I've gotten um, attention towards the comic is by first giving something out, giving something of value to my followers.
So after the Kickstarter goes through, what is your plan? Are you giving the comic book away after that point, and the Kickstarter is basically a way to finance the second one? And if you don't make the money for the second one, you just won't do another one, and the first one's going out free no matter what? Or if you don't make the money for the second one, the first one to goes nowhere.
Yeah, so this one is to fund the physical prints of the first issue. And this Kickstarter is more for me to gauge the audience, how people are interested, because it's already been produced, it's already available online for free. Like you can just go to my website and read it, right?
Uh-huh.
But I want to gauge how interested the audience is, and if this project specifically is worth my time and money going in the future. And but at the same time, it's something I really want to make.
Yeah,
So
that's the interesting thing to me is that obviously your time is important to you as a creator,
yeah,
right? Enough to go onto Reddit and to get these two other people and to make something, which is
yeah,
beautiful. I
yeah,
mean, the thing to me is that you've made something magnificently beautiful
yeah,
together, the three of you,
yeah,
and you could replace these two people and not even just replace them, but as a writer, you could find two other people and start, making other things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
this comic book is one idea. You have
Yeah,
dozens of
definitely.
other ones. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I
for
mean,
sure.
as you could be the next Stan Lee.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd
I
go
don't,
that far, but
why not? I mean, he
yeah.
had, he was farming out ideas to people left and right,
Yeah.
and like half of them didn't work out,
Yeah,
and it's
that's true.
free. I mean, how many people on Reddit, you know, have an actual finished 32-page comic book?
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Did they get it to work out? As you were talking, I was thinking about two instances of people that I know that were trying to build a game.
Yeah.
One of them, he tried so hard and he could not get people to stick around.
Yeah.
The other person's trying so hard, he's got a team of like 100 million people working for him, and still nothing is happening. He's got
Yeah.
art, he's got story, but he's got no game, and he's been working forever. You went on Reddit, you found two other people, and you got a 32-page book.
Right.
Boom. Art,
Yeah.
colored, written, done. Boom. Ready to sell. Does it sell? Who knows? It might. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you find a couple more people, you got two people already, you maybe have two more books. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Definitely.
hate to think that you go on this Kickstarter and then you get discouraged,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and that might happen. And if
yeah.
it does, I wonder, then what?
Well, yeah. So I've prepared myself for the worst case scenario, which is it doesn't fund, right? But I'm at least for this first issue, I'm saying, okay, I don't care if people are interested or not. I wanted to make this, and I wanted to make it for me because it's something that I'm passionate about and something that I care about, and it's a story
Mhm.
that matters to me. And if people are interested in it, great, and I'll put it out there in case people are. And I've used the strategies that I just talked about to get it out there. But this one is I had to make this, which is why I think that some people are in the mindset like, well, yeah, I want to make a comic, and they have the idea of their final product like, I want to have a comic done. Whereas my mindset going in is I want to make this thing. I not only do I want the final product, I want to be there to make it. And
Did it
I,
have to
I,
be
I
this comic, or was it any comic?
well,
If you could just answer
this
that
one,
question for me, though. Was
yeah,
it this specific one? Because I know you said
yeah,
5 years.
yeah, yeah. So this one, um, like the story was so important to me, and like the message that I'm trying to give out.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to be like high and mighty about it. Like
Be high and mighty, bro. You did something that a lot of people don't.
yeah, yeah. It's something that was really important to me, which is why I felt the need to make it,
Yeah.
regardless of its success or not.
Mhm.
And
Well, it's
whether or not,
successful because you finished it. We're talking about profitable,
yeah, probably,
right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're looking for profit over
yeah,
because it's successful. You finished it. It's beautiful. It's an
yeah,
awesome piece of art. But profit, on the other hand, is something that's yet to come. That's what you're looking for with Kickstarter.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's something that it comes with time, and that's why I have I really like the 80% versus 100% rule, because hey, okay, I have a comic now. Maybe it's profitable, maybe it's not, but I have that comic. It's mine. I can put my name on it. And if I go out and I make another comic, now I have two. And the more stories I make, the more I write, whether they're profitable or not. Each one makes my next project all the more likely to be profitable, right?
Yeah.
So
What kind of problems did you run into with this that you've learned from? Just thinking about the word that came to mind when you finished that statement was easy. It makes the next one easy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Next time that you do a comic, it's going to be easier to produce.
yeah.
And that was just the question that popped in my mind was, I mean, what do you think that you'll do differently next time you put a comic together that this one taught you lessons on?
Yeah, so there's a lot of just strategies and writings on a story level that I think that there's lessons that I've learned in that regard, but in regard to um, selling and marketing out, I think I a lot of people have the assumption that okay, I'll produce this really cool story and then everyone's gonna buy it, and that's that's kind of the mindset that I had. Well, I'm gonna produce this story, and I'm not gonna worry about marketing it out too much. I'm just gonna put it out there and see who's interested. And then I put it out there, and no one came to it, right? So
Yeah.
I said, wait, hold on a second. Um, I think the biggest thing I learned from that is people aren't going to come to you. You have to go to them, and that's when
No,
I
absolutely.
yeah, I started bringing out the guide and like pushing that into the foreground, and started bringing attention to that because people are way more receptive to a gift to them, right? And then from there, I brought on my story, like kind of uh, after that, after they've already know who I am as someone who gives to them first. And yeah, so I think I'd really focus on getting that audience and getting that community together of people who are just interested and passionate in the project as I am.
Yeah, people love that free stuff, don't they?
Yeah. Yep.
There's a guy that at the New York City Comic Con that was giving away free sketches. You know,
Yeah.
you just stand in line and he would sketch you. He would sketch your animal persona and he would make a name for it and whatever. And I remember him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I didn't buy anything
Yeah.
from him that day, but I went home with my sketch on a bag and I hung it up on my wall and I remember him forever. In fact, me and my wife, we bought art from him and we hung it up in our children's nursery. You know what I mean? It's like our first art collection that we bought as a married couple was art for our children. Remember him? He gave us just a bag with a picture on it. You know what I mean? It was free. We didn't pay
Yeah.
anything for it. It's like he formed the community with us because he gave us away something that we cherished as a couple.
Yeah, totally. And that's I think why I wanted to at least have this first issue out for free, because I want people to have the opportunity to check out the story and say, "Hey, I like this. I enjoy it. I can get behind this." And then to have an easy access into that community of like-minded people. And I
And
I
giving
think
them an
it's just
opportunity to kind of share in that too with helping
yeah.
create the logo or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was cool. I mean, when I saw you do that, I was like, wow, that's cool. I mean, you are fostering a community involvement. And I felt like that was special.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I want to do more in my future projects. I want to work harder at making that community, making that group of people who just are interested and like truly interested, not just like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a like or something. People who
Yeah.
are who would be there, engaging, willing to share their ideas and thoughts on a project.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. So no art, no coloring right now, just the story outline, right? No actual scripting done.
Yeah, so
Oh, I'm
if
sorry, you
you
did say the script was done.
yeah, script is mostly done for number
Okay.
2. I'm still have tweaks to make and a little bit of rewrites, but that shouldn't take me too long. And then I'll probably be working on that as we're shipping out the first issue, ideally if that funds.
If it funds, okay.
Yeah.
How much you asking for?
So I'm asking for I think 1700, I think, but that's Canadian again.
So
Um
it's basically free. No, I'm joking.
yeah. Yeah.
It's like almost a dollar for dollar now, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
It's really
I think it's 80 cents to a dollar. But
so
it's climbing up.
America's 80 cents and Canada's a dollar. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable that Canada's less than a dollar now. You
Yeah.
guys are better than us. It should be more. You don't have Trump as your president. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
We just gotta sit on the sidelines and watch it all happen.
Oh my God. But that's what I was actually going to read right when you clicked on is there's an article about um, charges coming through from Mueller right now.
Mhm.
It's like, oh man, what's going to happen? It's like
Yeah.
freaking me out.
Yeah, and actually that's something that's gonna play a big part in the comic, and a big reason why I wanted to start writing about it. And I think Trump becoming president was like, okay, now is the perfect time to write this kind of story. And because it's all about power and control and who should be in power and what that means and who actually is in power. And yeah.
Yeah, what kind of statements are you making in terms of who should be in power?
Yeah, so I don't want to make the assumption. I don't want to tell people who should be in power. I want to introduce a multitude of ideas. Like I have a whole bunch of characters who will they are all on equal platforms. Like I don't make one character look really bad, or like if someone I disagree with, they'll have a terrible argument. I don't want something like that. I want so there's two characters in one scene that I'm thinking of where they have opposite opinions, and I'm more aligned with one of them, but I tried as much as possible to pull that out and just have both of them make strong arguments for themselves. So I have there's I wanted to make it more, again, something that the reader can engage with, as
Mhm.
opposed to something they're being told. I don't want to have my reader be told, hey, this is the right answer. I want them to say, here's the positions presented in the strongest way. Which do you think is right? And um
I love the little
yeah,
piece of art. There was a homeless man sitting down on the sidewalk, and he had a sign
yeah,
as one of your superheroes running by, and the sign said, "Keep your change. I want superpowers," or something along those
yeah,
lines.
keep your coins, I want
I
powers.
thought that was a I thought that was very apropos for the climate that we're in right now.
Yeah,
I wonder what choices that homeless man would make. I'm
yeah,
actually writing a story right now about basic income too.
yeah,
The idea of what kind of choices would a person make if they have more freedom
right,
economically.
yeah.
Give somebody
No,
$12,000 would really make that much of a difference
yeah, that'd be
in their lives.
that'd be an interesting story. But yeah, a lot of I wanted to make um, a story that was not only about this kind of thing, something that a topic that interests me about power and equality and that kind of stuff, but I wanted to tell it in an interesting way. I wanted to say, well, how can I tweak this idea into something that's cool and interesting? And that's where the powers came in, right? So I could have just made a
Mhm.
story about um, um, different levels of communities, like poor community versus the rich community, right? And how the poor community is kind of stuck where they are because they're poor, and it's this never-ending cycle. But
Yeah.
I took that idea and twisted it and said, well, how can I represent that in a way that's instantly recognizable? And I thought, well, everyone knows superpowers, right? Everyone, like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, those are huge right now, right? So I took that idea and stuck powers there instead. So there's the people who have powers, which are the privileged, and the people who don't, which are the poor, right? And from there, just ideas are exploding out, and like it's just been so much fun to write.
How do your superheroes get their powers? Is that something you could speak of or
Yeah,
speak on?
yeah. So they're originally superpowers were normal. They were genetic, in that only a few would have them, and they'd pass down from genetically from parents to children. But then in the story, this happens right a few years before the story starts. The U.S. government, found a way to manufacture superpowers, but the high production cost meant that only the rich could afford the procedure, and that's how um, the rich gain superpowers. That's why the log line is, "What if only the rich had superpowers?" Because then only those who could afford superpowers would get them.
Is there a menu
A what?
of
Sorry.
you have different superpowers that you could choose from?
Oh, yeah, yeah, totally. You can kind of tweak it as you like, and I think there's some cool and interesting ways to pick that, and all the different choices you can get from that. But yeah, definitely.
I'm picturing like chandeliers and waiters, and they hand you a menu of options, and as you're
Yeah,
eating your caviar with
yeah.
your rice crackers, are like, oh, I think I shall take a little bit of Fireball and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love it, man. And there's speculative fiction is so fantastic, and you're playing around with something that I think is called social speculative fiction.
yeah,
You know, writing about the society that we're living in, and you can go in so many different ways.
yeah, definitely.
how do the poor fight back against, I mean, because it is like the poor can't fight against these rich people, because
Right.
they do have the entire society geared to protect them, the court system, police, the army. I mean, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
There's
And
nothing you can do as a poor person
yeah,
against
and
it.
like society is structured to keep them that way. And a lot of the story is about, well, is that really their fault? And what should we do about it? Or what's the solution to that problem?
Become rich.
Yeah.
If you want to do something about it, become rich, and then you don't want to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Isn't that the old joke?
Yeah. And that's why I made the main characters superheroes themselves, because um well, there's a couple reasons for that. And in that those are the kind of people that would have enough influence to make change, kind of ironically, in that the people who need the help can't don't like, the system is preventing them from helping themselves. But also because um I wanted to write the story like from my position, which is, and I'm a pretty privileged white dude, right? So it would feel a little weird writing it from the perspective of the poor, or of some poor black family, right? And um, so I took the perspective of these heroes and said, well, these people, they want to make change, they want to help, but they're not the ones affected by this, right? So that's kind of the vessel that I use to tell the story.
And then I'm thinking about there's a story of these beauticians in Queens, the Bronx, or whatever have you, here in New York, where they pretend to be plastic surgeons, and they
Yeah,
hook people up with butt implants and lip jobs and whatever have you. They do collagen injections and things like
yeah,
that. You have like your mad scientist poor people who do kind of the poor man superhero injections or whatever,
right.
and they do a bad job and they create, oh man, am I onto something? Do you have some? Are those the bad guys, the
Well,
bad superhero jobs?
so that's interesting actually. I was playing around when I first started, when I first had the idea of, okay, well, there has to be some kind of villain, some kind of antagonist, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was worried that if I made someone the villain, then it would become super obvious what my perspective is.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't want I didn't want the story to be, this is what I think is right and I'm telling you this is the answer. I want it to be, the reader engages and helps to find a solution together. So this is way later in the series, but I didn't want to have this big super villain, right? I wanted to have this rising antagonist, but I didn't want the antagonist to be evil or a bad person. It's there's The antagonist is someone who has their own perspective and they have reasons for doing what they're doing, and they're a fully like real fleshed out and realized character, and not just
Hmm.
someone who is the big baddie to fight. Because, and I wanted to do that because I wanted to do something different from what a lot of the superhero stories are, which is some big bad evil dude is coming to destroy the earth and we have to stop him.
And he
Right.
gets arrested. He's thrown in
Yeah.
some kind of prison, and then in 7 to 10 story arcs, he gets released somehow and has another story arc.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
And there's
mean, do
definitely
you
a
see
place for
this thing
something.
kind of? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's definitely a place for stories like that.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's what I grew up on, like
me
the,
too.
the superhero stories. But
Yeah.
I wanted, with More Than Men, I wanted to do something different. Right.
Do you see this thing lasting for a long time, or do you see it having an arc that ends for you so you can do something else? Or would you
So
like it to go on forever and just be kind of, as we joked around about earlier, the Stan Lee of your own comic book universe?
yeah. So I have a very distinct end in mind for the series. After 6 issues, that would be the end. That said, I'm leaving it. It's not like the world explodes. There's no more story after this, right? I'm leaving
They
it
all wake
open
up. It's
for,
a dream.
yeah.
They're in purgatory.
Like, I wanted to write a story that has fulfilling arc and ends in a satisfying way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's totally room for more stories if that's the way I want to go, or if the readers are interested in that. So I'm leaving it open for more, but there's definitely an end, and
Okay.
it's meant to be a satisfying conclusion. Whereas a lot of other comics are, and this thing happens, and then this thing happens, and then blah 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 blah. 300 issues later, it's still going on, right?
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, there
No,
are some really,
definitely.
really good comics like
Yeah,
The Walking Dead
yeah,
that can
yeah, for
really
sure.
prolong a story indefinitely because there's a lot to be said for the world they live in.
Yeah, for sure. And
Saga is
that's
another
totally
one
true.
that can kind of prolong a story because the world is just vastly, incredibly interesting.
Yeah, and I totally love that series. Like I read Saga as it comes out, and there's
I haven't read it for a
definitely a
really
place
long
for
time.
that. Yeah,
They took a hiatus, and I haven't been able to actually pick it up again.
yeah,
I mean, there are tons of books like that,
yeah,
and this might be one of those books where, I mean, yeah, they have superpowers now, but maybe eventually they don't. Maybe
yeah,
everybody gets them. I mean, if the technology is there,
yeah,
maybe the whole
definitely.
world becomes superpowered. You know what I mean? There has to
Yeah,
be. I don't know.
and
Maybe that's really incredibly interesting, and you want to
yeah,
continue on with that thread or the universe or something along those lines. I
yeah,
mean,
for
there's so
sure.
much to play with if you use your imagination and
Yeah,
broaden the whatever it is that you need to broaden.
yeah,
I mean, as a writer, you can have whatever you want.
yeah, yeah.
The best part about it.
And that's why I wanted to leave the room for more, if that's the way it was gonna go, right?
Do all of your arcs kind of take place in the same world, or are they
Yeah,
other places, other worlds type thing?
yeah, it's all in the same place, the same general vicinity. There'll be some more characters introduced, some more plots and stuff, but it's all revolving around this group of characters. Yeah.
Let's go back and talk about your how-to to comic books
Sure. Yeah.
that you're giving away for free right now. What is your intention with it? I feel like that's a gold mine yet to be fully explored.
Yeah. So I right now, as it is, I have I the sections for um like marketing and crowdfunding and um distributing comics,
Hmm.
those aren't yet released because I'm doing that
You
right
have yet to
now.
do those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm doing it right
you're
now.
living those as we speak.
Yeah. So I'm still collecting a whole bunch of resources on that and still talking to lots of people about their thoughts on it. And ideally, once this Kickstarter completes, I want to go full blown into that and totally finish the guide and get every section done. Because right now, there's we have idea generation, writing, drawing, colors, lettering, um, scripting, printing, a whole bunch of sections already pretty fleshed out, but I want to dig even deeper into them, get a whole bunch of other people's ideas, and really bring that to completion as well.
How long is it?
Oh, I think right now it's paged on my website, so each section has its own page. But I think it's um,
Or how many
I
words? Do you
think
know
it's
that?
100 pages just regular text because I
Uh,
have it on a shared Google Docs as well. So I think that's gotten to 100 pages.
so it's like 20,000 words or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit.
So that's pretty interesting, man. There's been a lot of really good how-tos to comic books.
Yeah,
You could
yeah,
self-publish that and make that available on your website as well. Hmm.
yeah, definitely.
Have
And that's
you allowed your co-authors and creators to look at it?
yeah, for sure. I have it totally open, and I encourage people to look at it too. And I encourage people to message me about it and give their own thoughts about it because I want it to be a community thing, and I don't want it to be all my ideas because I'm just one person. I don't have all the answers to everything, and without the
That's
support of other people giving their
yeah.
thoughts, I think it would be nearly as good.
Speaking of that, have you reached out to anybody that you would consider kind of a
Yeah.
mentor type figure to pick their brains and figure out, how they did it in
Yeah,
the indie world of comic books?
that's definitely something I want to do.
Have not done it yet though.
I have not. No, that's like very high up on my to-do list. Have actually a list of people I want to contact and ask, but I wanted to talk to the community and get their thoughts and kind of round this thing out so I would have something to show, um, and then reach out to the higher ups and try and get their thoughts as well on it.
What about on Reddit, that community that thou shalt
Yeah.
not speak its name? Actually, I don't remember its name, or I would speak it. Where did you find your artist and your colorist at?
Oh, comic book collabs. I think that's
There
what
you
it's
go.
called. Yeah.
Have you reached out on there to ask if anybody wanted to potentially continue a conversation with you on Google Hangouts or whatever to, talk
Yeah.
about marketing and the next step? I mean,
Yeah.
basically, you've
Totally.
got to be a king on there because of what you've been able to accomplish. And I would imagine not many people have accomplished what you have. Or can you
Yeah.
think of anybody who has?
Well, I know there's some bigger name creators out there who have done stuff focused on,
On that subreddit,
not on the subreddit, no.
no, specifically on that subreddit. Has anybody done what you've done and gone farther with it? Has
I'm
anybody?
Yeah, I'm not sure if someone's put out a guide to that extent. I know people have written up stuff, and I've talked to them, and they have their specific blog posts that they're writing about, maybe something very specific to art or something. And but I wanted mine to be sort of a collection of the whole process, right? And that's resulted in, like, when I post on Reddit now, people will direct message me, hey, I really like this aspect, and then I'll actually have a conversation with them. And I'm also in a few chat groups, one the result of that
That's
subreddit.
fantastic.
And all the time people are just giving thoughts on things, and things that I didn't even think of, right?
Reddit to
And
me, man, is like get away from those big main ones
yeah, yeah,
and you really find treasure troves of communities. I
yeah,
mean, it's just amazing to me.
yeah,
You talk to
yeah,
people like on Facebook. I mean, there are tons of writing Facebook groups that I didn't know existed until just recently. But
yeah,
you talk about Reddit, and they're like, "Oh no," they start quaking. They're so afraid of it. But
yeah,
there are some really good groups on Reddit.
yeah, because Reddit is the internet unleashed, pretty much. And for better
Well, it
or
used to
worse,
be.
right?
I think 4chan is.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. But
I
yeah, for
think
better
Reddit
or
has
worse.
been pulled back a little bit. What was that one subreddit that used to make fun of fat people?
Oh, was it fat people shaming or something like that? Is
Some
that what it
it
was
wasn't
called?
that nice actually. I think it was worse than that.
Oh, really?
It had a horrible name. But
Yeah,
anyway, I think that's I think that's
yeah,
what got Reddit leashed, that subreddit and among
yeah,
others.
yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah,
but it's the community coming together under a common thing, and that could be good or bad, but either way, it's interesting to me.
it's very fascinating. I'm writing this story today. I mean, it's for a contest, and I had a question about Islam.
Yeah.
So I went on Reddit, the Islam board, and I typed in my question. I'm thinking, oh, this is probably not going to go very well, and I got like
Mhm.
8 responses.
Yeah,
Calm, reasoned, and I got my answer. I
yeah,
was like,
yeah,
I looked at, obviously did my research, and I got a confusing response, from my research, and I wanted to clarify it, and
yeah,
Reddit did that for me. It's like,
yeah,
it's an amazing place, and it happened instantaneous.
yeah,
I found my answer within 5 minutes.
yeah. It's pretty
Real people.
crazy.
It's just
Yeah.
fantastic.
That's I think is so interesting, the power of people coming together as a community to make something. And it's and sharing ideas and growing together and teaching each other. It's something that's really, really interesting.
Are you planning? Are you planning on using Reddit when you put your Kickstarter up?
Yeah. I have a few places I plan on posting to. I haven't posted. It's not like I haven't posted there before. I'll like
Because
a
this time
cold
you're
call.
asking for
And
money, though.
yeah.
Are you
So
nervous about that?
yeah, I think so. But the people have seen posts by me. They've seen me post the guide, and they've seen that I I can finish something. I can produce something. I can
See, and a
produce
lot of
something
people don't,
helpful
right? Am I
too.
right about that? Like you're unique in that you finish something
Yeah, a lot of people start projects
through
and
that
don't
subreddit.
finish them. Yeah, yeah,
Like I'm almost thinking you're gonna make your $1,700 like through that subreddit, but I don't know.
yeah. But yeah,
Like
it's
so cool.
yeah.
Discord, right? Where I discovered you was Discord, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm still in a bunch of groups there, lots of comic groups, and it's really about the community, I think, in that um, people want to support you if they know you and they
Hmm.
understand you. And that's been my goal, is to put stuff out there to to talk and engage with people, so that when I do ask for help, people want to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
It is
I
about the
first,
feedback, isn't it?
yeah, when I first started,
Or
when the
back and forth
comic
anyway.
first came out,
Hmm.
there was a couple Reddit subreddits that I hadn't posted in ever, and then there was like the comic book collabs and the other ones which I had been active in, and the two that I never posted in, I got nothing. Like no one's interested. They don't care. They don't know you. You've
Which
never
ones were they?
it was just some random comic book ones. I don't remember exactly, but that taught me like a really important lesson in that you have to engage with
You
people.
have to engage. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just go out and say, buy
And
my
just
comic
ask.
and have people say yes.
That's
Right.
basically like walking up to somebody on the street, give me money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
That doesn't
me.
go over so well.
Attaboy me. Why am I attaboying you? I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm smart. I know words.
Yeah.
No, go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's I mean, it's a neat journey, man. I mean, with this whole thing,
Yeah.
and you're utilizing the skills that you have towards, something unique. When you went to college,
Yeah.
fresh out of high school, did you have the desires to go into creative writing or something other than computer engineering or computer science?
Yeah, I think so. I always had that in the back of my mind, and I did take some comic making classes in university, and honestly, those were some of my favorite classes.
Were you
And
disappointed in yourself for not doing it?
um, I don't. I think I
You think
don't.
let me ask you this way. Do
Yeah,
you think it would have worked out differently if you had taken those classes? Because it seems
yeah,
like, you've been directing yourself towards this anyway.
yeah, and it's yeah. I think it definitely would be different, and I would be definitely in taking a different career path. But the way it's worked out is I've been able to have a stable job and make some good income while I dedicate my free time to something that I actually care about and something that's really important to me. And sure, I would love to do this full time, um, but I don't know. Yeah, it would definitely be interesting to know what it would have been like if I had just jumped into it right away and studied it and
It's very
gotten a
interesting.
degree.
Do you think that you could turn your job into this, like your
Yeah,
day
I
job,
mean,
into something? I mean, not necessarily you being a writer of comic books, or
yeah,
do you think you could turn what you do during the day into, I
yeah,
don't know, X? And what would
yeah.
X be?
I'm not sure. I think there's definitely room for that kind of stuff, and um, I mean, my degree has definitely been helpful for me in that I made my website. I just coded it myself, right?
Hmm.
Because I had that knowledge.
You didn't go
Um,
through Bluehost or anything like that.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm hosting it. I'm hosting it through someone, but I didn't. It's not uh like like a Wix website or Squarespace or it's code I actually made. But yeah, I definitely think I know actually I know there's a guy, I can't remember his name. He does a podcast that I listen to, but he made an app. He's also in software and he made an app for reading comics. And so and that directly ties into it, right? So I definitely think there's room for a crossover really in
Yeah, and
any
apps are
job.
interesting. They seem to be
Um,
struggling. It's the wave of the
mhm.
future, right? It's destroying the comic book industry. Apps,
Yeah,
electronic reading devices,
yeah,
getting away from the pulp
yeah,
aspects of comic reading, right? It's destroying the whole world of
yeah,
comic books. Um,
yeah.
what is it? Comicology, that
Yeah,
website.
comicsology, yeah.
There's
That's a
so
big one
many
for
people. That's where indie comics go to die, basically.
yeah,
There are so many of them, right? That's like you go there and you get buried by talent.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
how do you shift through it? I go there and I get intimidated because how do I find the stuff I want to read?
yeah, yeah.
And
It's hard to go in and find an indie creator unless you know who they
you know
are,
what you're
right?
looking
So if you
for.
just post yourself on Comixology, odds are nothing's gonna happen, right? But
Yeah.
at the same time, a lot
And
of
I know some
people,
talented people I've talked to. I mean, I love talking to people like you. I love
yeah,
artists. I love writers. I love people who are creating stuff. I find, I've talked to like 68, 69 writers.
yeah,
I've hosted my other podcast. I've done like 12 episodes of that. So, I mean, I'm
yeah,
constantly, I'm at the 80 conversations like this.
yeah,
And if it wasn't for an actual conversation, how would I find you? You know what I
right,
mean?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
somebody with your background, maybe you can help sift that a little bit.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
don't know.
And
We need somebody to sift it because it's impossible. You can't just dig your hands in and
yeah.
pull out 50 people because eventually you're going to just get exhausted
Right.
reading through the
Yeah.
stuff that's not going to interest you. I mean, there are Christian comics that I don't want to read. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's stuff that just doesn't interest me, the feminist comics or whatever. I just want, the spec stuff, and
Yeah.
I can't find it.
Yeah. And
Or if I find it, I lose it again. And
yeah. And I think there's definitely a need for something that you're talking about, like a way to bring out comics that people want to read, because I think as mediums get more and more popular, and there's more and more creators in them, there's more room for niche interests. Like people, you can find something that is pretty much written for you, right? Like something that the story that will reach you on a personal level. But how do you find that,
how do
right?
you find it?
Like where
How
do
do
you
you
go
keep
for
it?
that, right?
I want it delivered to me on a daily basis. I want it
Yeah.
delivered to me every single time it's published. I want
Yeah.
to open my phone and say, "Oh crap, good! There's another episode of whatever or another issue of whatever,"
Yeah.
and I don't have to pay for it because this guy's desperate for eyes, or
Yeah.
whatever. It's another desperate for eyes because
Yeah.
they're free.
Yeah. And there's some great comics out there, web comics that I read online, that they're just posting once a week or twice a week online.
And I'm
And
not reading
and
them because I'm not getting them.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You don't well, it's great once you find them, once you
Chief
find something.
O'Brien at Work is one of my favorite web comics, and
Which
I
one?
can't. Chief O'Brien at Work.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you know it?
Yeah.
Love it. I don't get it on my phone. I want it on my phone. I want it in my email inbox, and I don't get it
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
email. Ugh.
Yeah.
What words am I trying to make my mouth work? I do
Yeah.
not get it in my email inbox.
Yeah.
No, I want
And
it there.
people are trying to make solutions for that. They have like RSS feeds, or people have like email lists like I've been doing, but it's hard. You have to actively support that, and you have to actively put effort into that if you want people to stick on there, right?
Artists or comic book artists are Luddites.
Yeah.
Dumb fiction writers are Luddites. Yeah, most comic book readers are probably Luddites. I
Yeah.
need like somebody to simplify the whole process for us.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we
There's
need people who
definitely
love comics that got really awesome computer science degrees or something. I don't know.
there's definitely room for something in there
Something. Yeah.
that'll
I mean, it'd
yeah.
be a lot of money for somebody too. Unfortunately, everybody
Yeah.
wants everybody wants it for free too. That's the unfortunate part of the world that
Yeah.
we live in right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just a product of there's no money or the internet has ruined us for giving money to people
Yeah.
because we just don't want to pay for anything.
Yeah.
We
And
want it.
I,
I mean, if we love you enough, we'll give you money on your
yeah.
Patreon. But I don't know if we loved you enough, or
Yeah.
we want you to be a pretty girl.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you're a
I
pretty
think
girl, they seem to
yeah.
be making a lot of money on Patreon.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think that something like Patreon, though, the fact that it even exists is interesting, in
Yeah, it's
that
a good sign that things have come.
yeah, in
So, I
that
mean, it's a good podcaster that I really love, Scott Johnson. He makes like $30,000 a month on his Patreon,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
enough money to support his podcasting and his family and his co-hosts or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, he's not a pretty girl.
Yeah. And yeah, that's it's interesting because like you said, you could just put something on Comixology, but that's just a big open place where
Yeah,
like what
it's a
who's
sandbox.
gonna find that? Yeah, it's sandbox. Who's gonna find that? But if you can build that community of enough
You're
people,
on the right page. I mean, it's about
yeah,
involvement.
yeah. If you can get whatever followers, you can put yourself out wherever. But if you don't have the people who are interested in you, who are interested in your product, then it doesn't matter, right? Like no one's
Yeah,
gonna find it.
exactly. And Scott Johnson's a comic book an artist as well, and I'm familiar
Yeah.
with his work because I love his free podcast.
Yeah.
I love his free podcast. I listen to his podcasts, many of them, and I know I don't buy anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is unfortunate for him, but it seems to be okay.
Yeah.
He's making tons of money on Patreon and probably other
Yeah.
sources as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people are doing that. They have their free outlets. Like for me, I have the free outlets, which is this resource guide and the first issue of my comic digitally, and then they have their paid platforms, which is like the Patreon, or for me, like this Kickstarter, right, where people can go and support you once they want to, or once they've heard enough for you, once they feel connected to you enough. Um, yeah, it's interesting that people are taking that approach. Right.
Yeah, I don't know how long it takes. I mean, John Scalzi is like one of the top 10 writers on Amazon.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it took him to get there, and he's still
Yeah.
looking for eyeballs. He'll give stuff
Yeah.
away for free.
Yeah.
He doesn't
It's
even
tough.
care if you download his stuff for free. He just wants you to read his stuff. He just wants his name to be recognized.
Yeah. It's hard. It's still really hard.
We're in the, I mean, I don't even know if we are in the wild, wild west. I don't know what era of the internet we are in.
Yeah. It's hard because there hasn't been much history of it.
Yeah, I mean, what, 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
I think my first email address was what, 95 maybe?
Yeah.
So was it 22 years? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's exciting and scary at the same time, because who knows what's going to happen, right?
You ride this wave long enough, you'll either hit the beach or,
Yeah.
it'll die down enough till you swim out and find another. Yeah. Heaven forbid. I mean, there are sharks out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they look like or what they want from you, but you know, it could take a big chunk out of your leg or pull you down for dinner later. I mean, but I mean, let's not talk about the sharks.
Yeah.
We're looking for something at the end of the day.
Yeah. Either way.
So
yeah.
Either way,
it's been like just an awesome experience for me, and it's been a lot. There's been so much learning me, like not only as a comic creator but as a person, and what I've learned a lot about values and stuff like time management that's helped me just in my regular life. So whatever
as a person,
happens,
right?
As a person, whatever
happens,
as
developing as a person, and that's what you should look at it as. I mean, you get to do something that you've always wanted to do, and you did it, and hopefully, you know, whatever. I cross my fingers for you on Kickstarter, because it's all about how you come across, and you have your campaign, and use this podcast however you want. Download it off of YouTube, cut it up, put it on there, however you want to do with this, do it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
You're welcome to it.
Thank you. But
and let me know if I can be of any assistance to you in terms of retweeting or.
Just let me know. I appreciate what you've done. It's really it does help, and it's awesome just to have people who support you, and regardless of whether or not it succeeds, I'm happy that I've been able to, with the team, make it happen, and I've learned from it, and that even if it doesn't fund, I'm still happy that I've grown from it, right?
I've always wondered what would happen if I did Kickstarter. I've never done it.
Yeah.
my wife asked me, what are you trying to kickstart?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you do a lot of
writing. Yeah, that doesn't cost anything to write. It's free. What are you kickstarting, man? I don't know.
Just kickstart
I'm trying to take over America. I'm gonna be president someday. No.
GoFundMe.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. GoFundMe is like a good one, isn't it? Don't you get to keep everything they give you?
Yeah, I think it's one where it's just whatever you are given, that's what you get, I think. Yeah.
Some dude was trying to GoFundMe like raccoon penises or something along those lines. He had like a sack of raccoon penises.
I mean, that's the internet for you.
That's the internet, man. That's the internet. Yeah. It's not the wild, wild west anymore, but it's something. Who the hell knows?
It gives everyone a voice.
It gives everybody a voice, even dudes with raccoon penises. All right, man. We're at an hour and 4 minutes. I think we started a little bit late, but I've been doing a new thing where I sum up our conversation with 3 questions.
Sure.
I think the first one's pretty important, especially being what you've accomplished. You know, a lot of people in this world that we live in don't even get to where you got in terms of accomplishing a dream, accomplishing a desire to create something. What do you tell somebody who's desperate to do what you've done? And what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so, wow, I could go on and on about that one, but
and 20 words or less. No, I'm joking. Make it what you want.
For me, it was a matter of saying, okay, this is what I want to do, and I decided that I wanted to make this happen. So I sat down and I said, okay, I'm gonna do 2 hours of this a day, maybe 3 hours a day, and until it's done. And you build out the schedule, you build out your to-do list of things to do, and you gradually pick away at it. And when I first started, I said, okay, I want to make a comic, and then you're like, what do I do? Where do I start? And I think a lot of people suffer from that, and that it's such a
Where to
big
start? Yeah.
big task. You're like, what do I do? And and for me, I just said, well, I'm just gonna keep working until I get it, and I would just overwhelm myself. Like I would get home and I would work on the comic until bed, and then without any direction or anywhere of what I wanted to do. But once I actually sat down and said, these are the pieces I need, these are the small chunks of work that I need to do, I could just pick away at them slowly and slowly, and I could see the progress happening. And that's what I think is important. Just pick a project or two, whatever you can handle, whatever time you have to dedicate to a project. Take that and just work incrementally on it. Make one task and work until that task is done, and then find out what the next task is. And just, if you progressively work through something, eventually you'll get there.
It's really good advice, man.
Mm.
And I'm going to use it this November when I start again from the beginning of my novel that I'm working on right now,
Yeah.
trying to finish it by the end of November.
Yeah.
I've been working on this stupid thing all year long, and this month it's going to
Are you
get
gonna
done.
do? You're doing NaNoWriMo?
No, I'm going to do this novel this month.
Yeah.
No, it's I've been working on it all year round. I just keep starting over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just almost done.
Yeah.
Almost done.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
Almost done.
Just keep
Yeah.
starting over, keep starting over, and
Yeah. It's
eventually
like
just
it's
gotta.
impressive. You start at the beginning and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
just edit this chapter one more time. And then you find yourself on like the second month going, okay, just
Yeah.
one more
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
time.
Yeah, that is exactly what happened to me.
Oh, it's so frustrating because you don't want, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're just avoiding where you need to end up, which is like
Yeah.
the last little section that you know is what's
Yeah.
going to happen. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
Second question, man, what are you reading right now?
Um, I just picked up a book called Persepolis.
Oh, I read
Um,
that. It's really
yeah.
good. Oh, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's the French Iranian graphic
Yep.
novel.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
And
that. I read that, like, obviously it's, graphic novel. It took me like
yeah.
a couple
Yeah.
hours to read through it. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
1970s revolution, right? And she barely
Yep.
escaped. And she
Yep.
lives in France, something
Yeah.
like that. So good.
Yeah.
Highly recommend that. If you've not read it, people out there in the internet world, read it.
Yeah.
So good.
It's good.
Anything else?
Um, I also read similar-ish. It's in Iraq. It's Sheriff of Babylon, and
I
that
don't know
that
if I
one's a
read that.
comic about it. Yeah, it's about, I think it's post Saddam, and but that one's pretty heavy. It's got some dark moments in it, but still pretty good.
I think
Still
I
quite
might have
good.
downloaded that one, and it's on my book list.
Yeah.
But as you were talking, I was thinking about the one with the lions, which I think I did
Oh,
read.
oh, I think that's a similar name. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember it, but
It's not the Lions of Baghdad.
yeah, something like that. It's something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good too. I think I might have the Sheriffs of Baghdad though on
Yeah.
my phone.
Yeah.
Not certain. I'm gonna have to take a look.
Yeah.
Um, Last question is, where can we find you? And
Um,
definitely hook me up with notes that you want me to include
yeah, I will.
in the show.
You can find me on Twitter. I'm Evan_Waterman. You can also go to my website, which is evanjwaterman.com. And I've got the comic there. I've got the comic making guide if anyone's interested in even just looking at what making a comic would entail. And you can also check out the comic on Facebook, which is More Than Men Comic.
If I remember correctly, you also have a read list in that how-to as well, don't you? A recommended
Yeah.
read list?
Yeah, I have each section I split out into a this is what I drew some of my resources for and things I think people would be interested in. So I have a whole bunch of other books and articles and other stuff that I link to, and each section is broken up into which ones are relevant where.
If nothing else, I highly recommend Evan's book for the read list because the dude knows his comics.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
And also, if you want either one of your coworkers, your collaborators to come on, they're more than welcome to. Just let them know. They have an open
Yeah, for
invitation
sure.
just
I
to
definitely
shoot me an
will.
email.
Yeah.
And you have an open invitation anytime you want to come back
Yeah.
to hit me up
I would appreciate it.
anytime,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah. I enjoyed the discussion.
Oh, yep, absolutely, man. And I wish you luck. And again, do not forget, send me notes.
I will. I will. Thank you.
All right, Evan, man. Good luck.
Yeah. Thanks.